Portions of this show are recorded. Strap in and be prepared.
Room for error is much slimmer in basketball.
One player and it changes your entire team. It's not like that in football. It's just not.
It's not.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Coach Mark Waskowski, Noah Eagle, Melissa Lombardi, Kenyon Barnard, Jonathan Stewart.
Sharp opinions.
Dana Altman probably earned a pass for a down year after almost 20 years of what he's done for Oregon basketball.
And some smiles.
Guys, I was stuck in a car wash.
Sounds like an R. Kelly song.
It's not an R. Kelly song.
It's Danny Havel.
I can't remember, and I've been doing this for longer than you've been alive, which is really horrible that I have to say that, but it's the truth.
Justin Grossweiner.
It's like the saying in Alaska that you don't have to be faster
Than the bear.
You just have to be faster than your friend.
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport. Sitting in for Danny today, it's Goose, Steve Mims.
Welcome into the Danny and Justin show on Fox Sports Eugene, Fox Sports Newport. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny. Danny is just checked in. He's just past Hood River, heading out to Pendleton to be the voice of the USAA at the Class 2A Boys and Girls Tournaments out at the Pendleton Convention Center. So Danny, drive safe. If you get to Cascade Locks and you get tired, Thunder Island Brewing's a great place to stop and maybe grab a bite to eat. But enjoy a safe trip out there and a good time out in Pendleton. Justin, it'll be me and you for 3 days this week and 3 next week, as next week I think Danny's continues his OSA tour up in Portland area.
Yeah, and today we have a lot to talk about, which
do.
is always good. It feels like whenever you're in here, we always have some good things to talk about. And yeah, I better get used to it because it's going to be the Justin and Steve show over the next 3 days.
It will be for the next three. You mentioned we have a great guest today, a longtime friend of mine, Josh Wilcox, number 48 in your hearts, or number 48 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, as they say, former Oregon tight end. He's coming on, and he's got some news to break. He sent me over a text this week and told me something was going on, and I said, hey, let's save this for the radio. I'm on radio this week. I can make some news. So, folks, it'll be fun to chat with Josh Wilcox. We'll chat about what he's got going on and about Oregon Ducks. He'll join us here at about 2:20. So stay tuned to listen to one of the definite fan favorite of Oregon Duck fans, Josh Wilcox, one of the first to start up kind of the run of tight ends that the Ducks have put out. And then tomorrow we are going to be Tracktown centric. We're going to be out at the Tracktown offices. Not the pizzeria, sadly. That's my favorite Tracktown office is the pizzeria. But we're going to be at the General's office, and we are going to be doing some interviews with a couple of athletes. It's kind of a media day as they promote some of their upcoming events and have some of that. So tomorrow will be all track all the time. Today is going to be baseball, football, and basketball, and softball. So we're going to start off and talk about Oregon State, Oregon. Baseball last night, softball tonight. We'll get into basketball in the final segment. And like I said, Josh Wilcox in the middle. Justin, you were out at PK Park last night, yesterday afternoon actually, 3:05. It was a decent little weather day. Oregon State gets the win, 10-6. They knock off the Ducks. You and Danny were talking about kind of yesterday who this was more important for. It turned out to be a really big win for Oregon State. For Oregon, maybe a missed opportunity. What did you see from your vantage point out there at PK?
Well, just going back to your previous point, I definitely think that this was a big game for both of these teams for different reasons. Danny had some great points of why he thought Oregon State it was a little bit more important for, but I thought, like you're saying, for Oregon, I think they had a little bit to prove here. And pitching-wise, it wasn't great for them.
No.
Miles Gostola, he was a bit spotty, 2 earned runs. The bullpen gave up each a couple runs per reliever as well. And it's funny because Oregon State all season long, they haven't really hit. And all of a sudden against Oregon, they're hitting. So there was some interesting small ball tactics that I thought were really good for Oregon State. Again, stuff that I thought maybe we'd see actually a little bit more of heading into the season. But just, Jacob Galloway puts down a bunt with a couple guys on, which was surprising to me because he's their 3-hole hitter. But that just goes to show that there's confidence in the guys behind him. Overall, I mean, it felt like Oregon State was just a little bit deeper. Oregon had a few chances, but they didn't really threaten except for late in the game when they kind of brought a few runs on. They had runners left on base for sure, but it just wasn't the Ducks game, and it did really give a good impression of me of what the Beavers are doing because they did look like a really solid overall team.
Yep. You mentioned Oregon takes the lead, gets a run in the first, but then the Beavs come back, get 2 in the third, 3 in the fifth, 2 in the sixth. So by then they're up 7-1. Both teams kind of tack on a little bit there. For the Beavers, like you mentioned, it's been a rough go of it offensively, but Josh Proctor goes 3 for 5 with a couple RBIs. You mentioned Galloway, the catcher, goes 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs. First career home run for Paul Vasquez. And so for the Beavs, 10 runs, 10 hits, pretty efficient there. Oregon gets 7 hits, led by Angel Laya, 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Angel Laya, by the way, was the one sitting next to my wife at the first pitch.
Yeah.
And it has been a real takeoff for him ever since he met my lovely wife.
It has been.
I'm not sure. My wife doesn't pay that much attention during baseball, but I keep showing her, look what Angel's doing. And so maybe some of the credit comes to that.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was our first introduction to him. And as I was saying, I don't know if I said this to you, but when I first met him, I thought he was a pitcher or something like that because he's just a very
big dude.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
And I think this is actually not a big game in terms of like, I think that the Oregon program knows how good this guy is. And obviously he's played really well. But to me, this was kind of a big game for this, really the whole team for Oregon, as I was kind of saying before. But for a guy like Angel, we just haven't seen him against competition like this.
Yep.
He's been playing really well, but to me, he gets a home run, he gets a triple, so halfway into the cycle. That to me actually really cemented how I feel about Angel and just his start. It's like, okay, yeah, this guy is definitely for real. He plays good defense out there in right field as well. So, yeah, Angel is definitely for real.
He got the tough half of the cycle taken care of. He got the home and the triple. He just couldn't get the single and the double. But yeah, Laya has been a real revelation for Oregon. He's been a great start, a great kid, too, and a really interesting story. I think he told us he had committed to Oregon like freshman year, that basically he knew he wanted to come here. And so kind of before he was on, and then he kind of took off on the recruiting circuit after that, but stayed loyal to Oregon. So he gets the 2 hits and then 2 hits from Ryan Cooney. For Oregon now, so Oregon's 10-2. The reason that I think this is a missed opportunity for Oregon is just their schedule is not going to present enough opportunities in the Big Ten to get a lot of ranked wins. I know that there has been some consternation. I believe your esteemed co-host, Mr. Havel, is one of them. I think your wintertime, your fall co-host, Mr. B-Ban, is also one on Twitter. People, why aren't they ranked? They're 10-1. Rank them. Well, not ranked because they beat George Mason in 4 games and they beat Youngstown State in 4 games, and both at home. And those just aren't great baseball programs, so you're not going to get a lot of credit for those. Then they go to Vegas. They beat Arizona. Not their problem, but Arizona's having its worst season in a while. And they beat Vanderbilt, traditionally a top 5 team that's just having a down year now. And then their losses to UC Irvine, which is not ranked. So yesterday was kind of the first chance for them to get a win over a ranked opponent, and it's Oregon State. So that's where I think it's unfortunate that they fall flat in that opportunity, because getting them at home, the Beavs, they're going to face them, I think, only one more time, and it's at Oregon State. So if
2 more times.
2 more times?
Because they played that other game that they announced.
Oh, that's right, the one in Portland area.
Yeah.
Okay. So play them 3, a home, away, and neutral.
Correct.
So here's my thing, and Oregon I think is gonna be the class. Well, UCLA, but Oregon's gonna be right there with them in the Big Ten. I don't look at Oregon as having a hard time making the NCAA tournament this year, but and I said this last year, and it's to no fault of Oregon. They went to the Big Ten for football, but in baseball, it's not a real strong conference. So the issue they're going to have is they're playing Nebraska, Illinois, Penn State, UW throughout the season, when some of these other teams are playing really good ones. Their best chance to get a ranked win now they do have 3 at UCSB later this month. UC Santa Barbara, there are actually 43 college baseball polls. People may not know this, but there are 43 different college baseball polls, and UC Santa Barbara is ranked in 26 of them. So they're kind of right around there. A little bit of exaggeration, but not to say that there are a lot of polls. But UC Santa Barbara is getting some votes in some polls. So there's a chance to get 3 on the road. That's a nice one there. Other than that, the 2 Oregon State games in April, really Oregon's next chance to get a ranked win is they're going to have to go to UCLA, who is an absolute wagon right now and ranked number 1 in the country, and then they finish up with USC at home, which again, USC getting votes in some of the 47 college baseball polls. So I think that these Oregon State games are important to them, because especially when they're at home, because Oregon's going to be at UC Santa Barbara and at UCLA, and those are probably the 2 most likely teams to face. That might have been the only ranked team they play at home all year long, and to miss that opportunity is an unfortunate one. But so like I say, I think with Oregon that people need to, the record's great, it's 10-2, and just the way that they had scheduled it, having George Mason and Youngstown State, if they're not popping into polls and people are frustrated, they're going to need to rack up some good wins, and yesterday was a chance to do that just didn't happen.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And the thing about it, too, is that it's only one game, which is the hard part, is that it's really there's so much randomness to it. They didn't throw out each of these teams their best pitchers.
It's a midweek, and that's the other
part. It's a midweek game.
It's tough to play those teams on them. You're playing your ranked team on a midweek because neither of you are starting one of your top 3 starters by definition. It's a midweek game.
Exactly. And so there was talk beforehand. I mean, Danny and I were kind of debating, like, are they going to throw Dax Whitney out there? And I was like, I don't know. This is a midweek game. Like, it depends how much they valued it. And clearly, they were just going to have Dax would have been on 4 days rest, I think. And they just don't usually do that in college. He's getting like a whole week, basically. So
they don't get off stride like that.
No. So I agree. It definitely is unfortunate for Oregon because the next time, like you said, that they're going to play at home a ranked team, potentially, at least by that point, we're projecting a little bit here, is I think it's May 14th.
Yep, USC.
That is a long time from now.
Correct. And like you say, the Oregon State one, so then they're going to play them the 14th, which is a Tuesday, and 22nd, which is a Wednesday. So again, they're not going to ever face Oregon State with their best arms on the mound, or again, seeing Dax Whitney and Oregon State's either, because those guys are always going to be the weekend ones. So you sit there and say, hey, well, you didn't throw your best arm at him, but these games all count in the rankings and in the in against your record. You gotta your lineup's going to be the same, but it's hard to get that fourth pitcher. But that's kind of a key in college, is to try to get that fourth guy. Because a lot of times, like Oregon's first 2 series of the year were 4-game series, so you needed that fourth guy for that, and then you need to have a weekday guy. And like you mentioned, Miles Gastola got the start, gave up 2 earned in 3 innings. Michael Mechna comes in, gives up a run and 2. Josh Hollis gives up 4 and 1 1/3. So this is where you need to kind of put together. Yeah. You need to kind of put together. It's the old Johnny Holstaff. You got to try to get 4 or 5 guys to give you an inning or 2, and it just didn't go that way for Oregon yesterday. Yeah,
none of those guys looked comfortable. Oregon State was doing a really good job of taking close pitches, and they were getting hit by some batters as well. I kind of just thinking out loud here, it does seem like it's more important for Oregon to have those midweek guys and the depth, because their conference schedule and the Friday, Saturday, Sunday games are going to be against teams that they should win. And obviously, you want to still have guys that you like against teams that you should win, because you never know. But it does feel like, hey, you're going to be playing some of these bigger games in the midweek. So you got to figure out who those guys are going to be able to get the ball and be successful, because it's not going to be your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starter.
Yep. So up next for Oregon, they go to Purdue. That is a homecoming for Mark Wasikowski, who spent a couple years as the Purdue head coach in between his Oregon tenures as an assistant before coming back to leave the Boilermakers to be the Oregon head coach. And Purdue has beaten Oregon State this year. So while you look and say, hey, Purdue not great, you're going there for 3, that'd be a really impressive sweep. Even getting 2 out of 3 is probably good. And again, might not be a ranked team, but Purdue has shown they can step up and get the big boys with Oregon State. So that's your baseball update. Softball Civil War is tonight. At least I'm assuming. Last time I looked outside, the rain did not look like it was in a great place for softball. But this is the start of a week for Oregon, where they are going to face Oregon State at Oregon State tonight at 6 o'clock. And then they have the Jane Sanders Classic, which features Oregon State, and they'll play them at home on Friday. But tonight it's Oregon at Oregon State. Ducks are 13-6. They are ranked number 18 in the country right now. And they're coming off a nice weekend there where they swept some games at home against Stetson, Idaho State, and Samford. Boy, Stetson, Samford. Try to say that 4 times fast. And maybe get Stanford. Maybe next year we can try to get Stanford in for that tournament too. And we'd have Stetson, Samford, and Stanford. But they already played Stanford and lost that game. So, but again, softball tonight. It's a big one. Oregon State's not in the middle of a great year. Oregon State's 9-12. But they're going to get them tonight on a Wednesday. Now, in softball, you don't worry about the midweek because your pitcher can throw.
Yeah, exactly.
A little different, the midweek games in softball as compared to baseball. But Oregon State, and it's again from Oregon State is 9-12, Oregon 13-6. This sets up as a week when Oregon should have some success, starting with the 2 against the Beavers, and then they're home for the Jane Sanders against Sac State, Nevada. Playing both those teams twice. So it's a weird schedule. They play Oregon State twice this week, Sac State twice this week, and Nevada twice this week. So that's the setup there. But a big one tonight to kind of get it started when Oregon goes on the road for the only one of those when they're in Corvallis.
Yeah, and they need to just get it going. I think that this is, in a way, almost similar to what Oregon State baseball has done, where their schedule was front-loaded and Oregon played a bunch of good teams and they had mixed success early in the season, but didn't get basically blown out by anybody for the most part. So, yeah, I think this is these next few games, no matter kind of who you're playing, to me, are big games because you want to get the offense going. They did that last weekend. You want to be able to get I think this is an opportunity to get some of the pitchers that are not Elise Sokolsky and Lindsey Grind some innings and some experience as well. Maddie Milhorn has been pretty good in her appearances that she's had. Spencer Taylor is obviously experienced as well. We've seen a little bit of Rowan Thompson. So I'd like to see them get some innings as well. And for Oregon State softball, I think it's going to be about Jay Butler.
Yeah.
Like, if Jay Butler is going to be able to carry this team, I think they're going to be able to be competitive. But if Oregon can shut her down, the lineup is so Jay Butler-centric that I think that's just going to be really tough for them. But they are playing up in Corvallis, so you never know.
Yep. The final non-conference weekend for Oregon, and then kind of like the baseball team, softball not great in the Big 12, in the Big 10 either. So they open with Penn State, Purdue, Indiana, Northwestern. Not exactly a murderer's row there. All right, before we head to the break, we have that special segment that everybody looks forward to. Yes. It is Justin's Wednesday Word of the Week. So, Justin, what is our Wednesday Word of the Week?
The Wednesday Word of the Week this week, which it was all started out with dynamicism, which Danny didn't believe was a word, so that's how we got to this point. This week, it is acquiesce. And the reason, first of all, the definition of acquiesce is to accept something without protest. So I think where this word came to my mind was Wayne Tinkle, with the mutual, sounds like, decision between Oregon State and himself to part ways. It sounds like in a little bit of a way he acquiesced to the situation and figured out that, I don't know if you heard the interview with John Canzano, that sounds like there isn't as much money as that they expected and he thought coming into next season, first season in the Pac-12. So it was a time for him to sort of accept his situation and move on, which was going to be best for him. So I think he acquiesced. So that's your word of the week.
I'll give you he acquiesced. I'm not going to say it was mutual. It sounded like Scott Barnes told him to go away, and that Wayne wasn't very happy about it.
And so he acquiesced.
And so at that point, he acquiesced. He didn't acquiesce the job. He acquiesced and came back. I'll just give a quick, and I put some out there. Of all the coaches I've covered in my career, Wayne Tinkle was as enjoyable as anyone. The best was if you got him at like a Pac-12 tournament or a Pac-12 media day and you just had time to sit down and BS with him. I remember you would love this. He's a big Cubs fan.
Oh, yeah?
So a big time when the Cubs were making that World Series run was like right around the time of Pac-12 media day, because they would do it in like October before the season. So I remember seeing him, and he was just chatting Cubs all the time, and we would talk Cubs. And then, I was obviously the Duck beat reporter. A lot of times an Oregon State coach then thinks, they're on their guard for the Oregon reporter to come around. Wayne couldn't have been kinder to me. I would run into him at airports. We'd sit down, and he'd be a great guy to sit down and have a beer with. I get I get that after 12 years, they thought it was time. I thought the timing was really weird. We always hear coaches say, when coaches leave in the middle, we always hear, he didn't finish the season. He's supposed to finish, and Wayne will, but it feels to me like Scott Barnes didn't finish the season. Scott Barnes basically pulled the rug out. Your team's playing well. You're going into the tournament. Let these guys run it out and then make any changes after that. And if you're going to tell me, we had to get started on the search for him, I don't buy that much either. So I'll just say, if you're out there listening, Wayne, I always enjoyed every time spent with you, and I wish you luck down the road. It sounds like his Canzano interview, he's going to keep coaching somewhere and try to get his son Trace to coach with him as well. But a first-class human being, had a wild ride there to get to that Elite Eight. A couple other nice years as well. A couple fell off. So, like I say, if people want to sit there and judge, and I thought Wayne was really honest, too. He talked about some of the years that weren't that good. But you're right. He didn't have all the resources he needed either. And good coach, great human being. So he did acquiesce, though. You are correct. But he is not yet. He will not acquiesce until maybe potentially he makes another big run in a conference tournament and tries to get himself to an NC2A tournament. All right, we're going to head into our first break. When we come back, Josh Wilcox, you know him as the former great Oregon tight end. He's going to come on and break some news, let us know what he's up to. We'll chat about that and what his thoughts on kind of everything that's been going on at Oregon. He's your 1995 Rose Bowl hero for the Ducks. I think he had 12 catches from Danny O'Neill that day. When we come back, we'll have Josh Wilcox. You're listening to the Danny and Justin Show. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport. Welcome back into the Danny and Justin Show. This is Steve Mims filling in for Danny, and we are now joined by a longtime friend of mine. He and I were chatting this week about a lot of life experiences that he has lived. He has been a Rose Bowl star, 11 catches, 135 yards in your 1995 Rose Bowl. Played in the NFL. Was in professional wrestling. Actually hosted sports radio for a while up in Portland. And now he is adding to his repertoire and his resume. Joined now by Josh Wilcox. Josh, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I appreciate it. So, I mean, you guys must be scraping bottom of the barrel. But
No, come on.
Well, we heard the news that's out this week, so we will we'll let you put the breaking news banner up there. Let everybody know what's coming up in the Josh Wilcox world.
Yeah, add it to my list of accomplishments or feats, that things I get to do. But I'm taking my the other Jay Wilcox is jumping into the head coaching job. So I'm going to be the head coach at the Harrisburg.
That's awesome,
Go
man.
Eagles.
Yeah,
man.
All right.
It's such a good opportunity. Small town stuff. Scott Bizarre's the AD, old Oregon guy. You know, his son's the 4-time state champ.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling program. It's going to help, you know, with the football program. It's such an awesome opportunity. I'm very blessed and lucky to get it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously you were back at your alma mater last year, Junction City. But I think about you when you were in high school. I mean, you were in the glory days when you had Mark Henderson, Craig Rothenberger, guys who were devoted to the school, were there forever. High school football was fun. It wasn't transferring and NIL and all about going on to college. Feels like Harrisburg's the kind of place where you can kind of replicate maybe the experience that you had at Junction City in the 90s.
Oh, by far. I mean, you know, when I was there, we helped start it for Henderson, but Harrisburg wants to help build a program. The small town values are something, of course, that appeal to me. That people can go play out of small schools. You don't have to transfer. That's a big thing for me. But, you know, just to build a program, help the community, give these kids, you know, a chance to, if they want to go to the next level, but a chance to have success, coach them up. I'm going to get a bunch of great assistants. But yeah, the whole place to me is the opportunity to kind of, you know, do what my parents did in Junction City and my brother and I had a chance to do to help the town. And now I get to go downriver or upriver, I should say, about 2 miles and help Harrisburg.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've known you for a while. I never thought that coaching was kind of in your blood. Was this something that you had thought may come, or did this kind of come out of the blue because of the enjoyment you had at Junction City last year?
Oh, yeah. No, this is like everybody is just as shocked as I am. So it was a 1% chance that I helped Junction City last year. Everything fell into place. And then, you know, I did find, and credit to Coach Rauschert and Bart Rothenberger for allowing me to help out. But I found something that, you know, made a difference in my life. And the opportunity at Harrisburg, it's like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
So it was very impactful last year getting to coach in Junction City, help the community. I had some awesome kids. You know, again, to coach with Coach Rauschert and the other assistants. You know, Bart gave me an opportunity. So I'm very blessed, you know, for all those things. But saying that, you know, we want to play them. And I know Ty wants to get it done. So it's going to be on Bart to get it done. We'll do it anytime, anywhere, in a parking lot. So we want to do that.
Sounds good. A little bit of the wrestling came out there. Anytime, anywhere, we'll do this thing in a parking lot, whatever.
You know, a little bit. Yeah.
You talked about Harrisburg last year was 9-man. Now it's coming back up to 11-man this year. Have you got you digging all your plays in the dirt? You got an offense ready to sprawl out on some folks? Yeah,
I mean, we're looking at some things, kind of what we can do. I was just nerding out on Huddle. I mean, again, I never thought in March I'd be watching Huddle film, high school football. But, yeah, I mean, we got some great players. You know, Chase Herrera is our stud. Everybody's going to key on him. I think Brody Phillips and Parker Jordan, I coached Parker's brother at Junction City last year. Those are my 2 tight end guys. And so I think they're it looks great and sounds great, but they're in a world of hurt if I'm coaching them.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be
there's a lot. I'm moving up to 11-man. We're in a different league. We're going to play like Jervis, Scio, Newport, some other teams like that. So it's, you know, the chance to go out there, compete. The last time they won a title was 2016. We got over 15 seniors. You know, we can go maybe do something what Junction did last year where, you know, it was a senior-laden team. There's some talent out there. The cupboard isn't bare. The community wants everything's lined up for the program, for myself to have success, the entire team, all the coaches. It's again, it's like one of these beautiful scenarios where everybody's in alignment and we're all going forward. which is unusual now in football.
Sure.
It definitely is, especially in today's age. But, Josh, first of all, congratulations on the opportunity. Second of all, you mentioned your staff. Any thought about maybe bringing your brother in to be a defensive coordinator, something like that?
Well, I mean, he's still holding out for bigger money. Imagine the kids' shock on their face when they thought it was Jay Wilcox and they got
right.
me.
No, come on. So, you can't sell yourself short like that.
Yeah, he's actually, he's certainly excited for me. I'm not going to lie, he helped us a couple times or gave us some advice last year or some thoughts before we played Marist, which were helpful at Junction. But it was, Justin's super excited for myself to get this opportunity. I think he's good to take a break for a second, too. I mean, he's been doing that 25 years. He can kind of figure out what he wants to do. And like I said, he'll be all right. They gave him a nice little package to go away.
And just for yourself, obviously, high school football, it's not going to be glamour all the time. You've got to do, some of the dirty work, obviously, be in there every day, work with these kids. You already mentioned you're kind of already grinding on the huddle tape, which I love. How much of this is just a commitment to the passion of the game for you? Obviously, you've been so involved with the game your whole life, but this is an opportunity to pass some of the things you've learned down to some of these kids. How much of it is a commitment to that passion for you?
Oh, honestly, it's a lot. I mean, I love the game, and it's so much as it's given me in my life opportunities that, Steve mentioned before. All those opportunities came because of football and sports and the community I grew up in and my family. And so, a lot of that's given back to the kids, giving them an opportunity. And then, I just want to make sure, and this is kind of where, as I had these experiences and I had some awesome coaches, I want to make sure I come back and, teach these kids a couple things that make them better players. And as I learned last year at Junction, it could just be one or two small things, but once it clicks and that light bulb goes on, the confidence, and that's the fun part, man, showing them one or two things. It's not like a huge, one thing on a route or one thing when you're blocking. And when they get that and they get the confidence, that's the best part about all of it.
Yeah. This sounds like a long-term deal for you, too. I mean, we see a lot of times at small schools, you get somebody who comes in and, does it for a year or two and then gets run out or, decides that it's not worth it. This sounds like you want to build something, I don't want to say a Mark Henderson-length tenure, but this sounds like this could be a long-time run for you out there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there would be no other place that I would rather, I wasn't going to go coach anywhere else. I'm a small-town guy. Jokingly, 25 minutes to Sheldon's too much for me, right? But it's the opportunity. And again, I never thought I'd be a head coach, but it's just looking at the opportunity, my experience last year with the kids and the coaches and helping that out, the community out, and, lined up perfectly, within my career. And so it's, the opportunity to build something, do something, and leave this place better. End of the day, that's what matters most to me.
We've seen a lot of teams are running, 12, 13 personnel. Could we get to a 16, 17 personnel where you just got tight ends throughout the field?
Yeah, we were going to kind of just maybe hike it to the tight end, take the quarterback out. I think that's the worry is we have some skill players, and so they hear this guy who loves tight ends, and they're kind of like, uh-oh. So they're grabbing some of their, friends to make sure we do a little bit of spread or – some certain kind of fly sweeps or things like that.
Yep, it sounds good there. Sounds like you've got no time for an announcement yet, but some names, maybe some familiar names we'll have heard of before from come out and join your staff out there?
Yeah, I am working feverishly over the phones, talking to agents, trying to offer up some Dairy Mart NIL deals. I mean, we're working all angles here to get everybody we can. The salary structure in high school football is a little bit different, district to district, but yeah, we're putting some young guys together and then some studs locally and around the state. And then I'm going to try to add some guys that have been in a long time to help, mentor those coaches and mentor myself. It's kind of new for me. So it's, I want to have people that have done it before, have been in those situations and, can help everybody.
I'm calling Rich Brooks and Mike Bellotti, and I'm sure those two would probably be as surprised as anybody to find out that you're coaching. But you call those guys and say, hey, I decided to get into this. Can I get some tips?
Yeah, I mean, I hit up Dirt Cutter and then Graywood, so they both said no. If I had Ditka's number, that'd be way different. But last year when I was coaching at Junction City, I told one of my kids, I said, Mike Ditka was my coach, and he looked at me and said, who?
Oh, no.
No. Yeah, So, yeah,
well,
plenty of coaches in my Rolodex to call, but it's, again, I got to work on that Dairy Mart to get me some more biscuits and gravy money for you guys for breakfast.
That's true. Yeah, Dairy Mart, and there's some Subways out there. We can. I know. I know the
Maybe
Subway.
some Abby. Oh, Abby's. We're going to work Abby's. Hardcore on that one.
The Subway out in Harrisburg, I know, does pretty good business out there with some of the businesses in the schools. So you should be able to hit them up. And yeah, I've seen Jordan Kent and some people on like Abby's commercials. You could have your own Abby's commercial talking about that's the place we went after high school football when we beat Marist all those years ago.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That, and, I think one of our big fundraisers is we're going to have parking spots for tractors and combines. So we're going to charge a little bit more for those.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is the new head coach at Harrisburg High School. Go Eagles. And if you want to make some donations to help him put together a top-notch staff, you can find him on Twitter at @RealJoshWilcox. Josh, it's been great to run into you a couple times recently, and I'm stoked for you on this opportunity. And it's cool to hear your passion for it and how much you want to do it. And look forward to catching up soon and chatting more about it. But really appreciate you taking a few minutes to come on and help me try to get through an hour of radio. This isn't what I'm good at either. So for you to have somebody who can talk for a few minutes to help me get through the hour was really appreciated.
No, always, man. You guys are the best. I appreciate everything, Steve. Thanks, man.
Sounds good, man. Josh Wilcox. He is, again, Rose Bowl hero for the Ducks. 11 catches for 135 yards in the game against Penn State. And he's the one who started what has become George Wrightster to now Kenyon Sadiq to many in between. But it was kind of Josh who got the tight end position going for Oregon. And just an all-around, as hopefully you could tell from there, great dude. All right, we are going to come back. When we come back, we will chat about some Oregon basketball. The men fell last night on the road. The women begin what should hopefully be a nice run through the Big Ten tournament tonight. We'll look back on the men and look ahead to the women when we come back. This is Steve Mims. I'm filling in for Danny. This is the Danny and Justin Show on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport. Welcome back into the Danny and Justin Show, and really appreciate Josh Wilcox coming on. That's a fun dude.
Yeah, great interview. Both of the brothers. I mean, really fantastic guys. For my first time talking to him, but like you said, you can definitely tell he's a really good guy.
Yeah, good dude, good family, and really excited for him. He is fired up for that Harrisburg thing. Like I say, it's great when a community like that doesn't just get like somebody who comes in and maybe wants to do it for a minute or something, but actually is going to commit to the job and try to build that program.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of Ty Rosher. We got a chance to talk to him, and just you could tell immediately the enthusiasm, the passion. I think that was the same things that I got from Josh right there.
Yep, yeah. I mean, Ty, who had played at Junction City, kind of like Josh, then went back last year, and my understanding was that it was Ty's first time as the coach. So they had said, "Hey, let's try to help him out," and they brought in I think Mark Henderson, the old Junction City coach, came and helped out. Josh helped out. Like you said, Justin actually was, but my understanding was called and gave him some ideas, and so they kind of brought some old players back to kind of, hey, let's help the first year guy, and that. Like I say, in all my years knowing Josh, I never thought he was going to be getting into coaching, but it sounds like that really sparked it. And like I say, not a guy who wants to go to 6A or someplace where he's going to have to deal with a bunch of BS on the side. He wants to kind of go do some old school football.
Right. I guess my question, because I don't have as much experience with him, and you've said that a couple of times. He said that a couple of times. What do you mean by that exactly? That you didn't expect him to get into coaching?
Oh, I think everybody always thought, oh, Justin's the cerebral one over there, and Justin's and Josh is the funny one. I mean, he was in pro wrestling. He hosted a radio show for a while, so I think it was always like he's kind of doing these things over here, but you need the X's and O's guy. That's the Justin one, and Josh has always obviously been really smart about football, but. And like he said there, I think he kind of looked a lot of times at high school football these days. You look from afar and it's like, man, that just doesn't look like it's not like the good old days. You got to deal with so much BS and this and that. And I think he needed to find a place like a Harrisburg that's like, hey, we want you to come in and coach football, be part of this community, stay here and build something. And we're not going to run you out if one parent thinks that you're not playing their kid enough type stuff. So I think that's what it was there. So thanks to Josh. All right, basketball, Oregon, Illinois last night. It was another rough one for the Ducks, down 20 at the half, 41-21. Didn't get much better against the Illini, top, I think they're ranked 11th right now. For Oregon, Wei Lin was a late scratch. We're still not exactly sure, at least I didn't see what exactly happened to him. Nate Biddle, as usual, leads the way, 15 points, although only 1 of 7 on threes. Kwame Evans, 13 points, although only 1 of 6 on threes. So Oregon shoots 5 of 29 on threes. And manages only 54 points, falls to 11-19, 4-15 in conference play, and they head into their finale. And I hate to say it, against Washington, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. That is not what you want for your senior night because it's going to have a hard time maybe getting some fans out at 8 o'clock for a battle, although it's the Huskies and the Ducks, so hopefully that'll get some people out to say goodbye to Nate Biddle, who's certainly been a great all-time Oregon senior. And Oregon normally does their senior day activities after the game because they don't like to kind of mess with the emotion beforehand. That's Ben Dana's thing. So have some coffee before you head out to the game for an 8 o'clock tip, and then a senior day afterwards that will showcase. I say Nate Biddle. Honestly, I look at the rest of these guys, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that it's senior night for Takai Simpkins, but these days, you just never know if it's senior night for somebody. Maybe even Nate Biddle gets a seventh year. We'll never know. So I know it'll be Nate Biddle. I don't know who else is going to get a senior day there. So.
Right.
But anyway, for Illinois, it was Andrei Stojakovic, who originally played at Stanford, 21 points.
As well.
Cal, yeah. And his dad, of course, Peja, 21 and 12, 19 points from David Merkovich. And then Keaton Wagler, the potential lottery pick, had 11 points in that one there. And you were watching it, and again, I'm going to give you the last names of the players at Illinois. We have Merkovich, we have Ivasic, we have Stojakovic, we have Humersic, we have Ivasic, we have Petrovic. Your thoughts on the Illinois roster construction, Justin?
Well, they're a really interesting team to me. I think I saw a clip one time that they at times have all European lineup that doesn't speak any English, which is kind of hilarious. But I think that they're very representative of how good teams at this point build their rosters in college basketball. Listen, they're in the Big Ten. Obviously, the program historically has been pretty good, had some success, made some tournament runs, but it's not North Carolina or anything like that. But this is a program, you talk about the Ivasic brothers, both 7-1 and 7-2. They both played professional basketball since 2019 in Croatia. Yeah. I mean, these are professional basketball players, basically. Mirkovic, who you mentioned, also played professionally in Montenegro since 2022. Stojakovic, he was a guy that was recruited out of high school. You mentioned he went to Stanford and then transferred to Cal, now transferred to Illinois. And then they have guys, though, that aren't those professional players as well. Kylan Boswell, he was recruited to Arizona in 2022. Yep. He was actually the youngest player in college basketball, completed his freshman season at 17 years old in the Pac-12, by the way. He
played, I remember his freshman year, he hit a big shot to help Tommy Lloyd beat Oregon at Oregon.
Right, so he's been around for a while, obviously, but he was born in Champaign, so they still do some of the local guys, obviously. And then you have their four-star prospect like Keaton Wagler, who's just a guy from Kansas. So it's not like there's any sort of connection there. It just comes down to being a good program. So it just sort of makes me think about, we've talked so much about Dana Altman and his future, and a lot of it's been down to, hey, how do you build a roster now? And is that the thing that, I don't have any doubt with the X's and O's with Dana Altman at any given time, but the roster construction it wasn't there this season for sure. So I look at Illinois and I wonder, can Oregon, you don't have to do that exact thing, but do you have to replicate that sort of thing? You're getting some local guys. You're going to be able to, and Ariza is a good example of, you're getting your 5-star that's doesn't have any local ties to Oregon. But then you have these basically professional players that they're bringing over from Europe. They'll, like Wei Lin, I guess, is sort of an example of that. But, Illinois is doing that with 6-7 guys. I mean, they have a few guys that are from the local area, but many of these players are just from like Eastern Europe or something like that. So I just think it's very interesting.
And they tend to be some of the big dudes. These aren't normally the guards.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with Arizona. Arizona's got a couple Europeans. Tommy Lloyd, since his days at Gonzaga, has focused on that, and it's paid off for him at Arizona. Now, Oregon for a long time had the Canadian connection. Oregon had a lot of success. Dylan Brooks with Jason Caliste when he came over. They had all sorts of – Mike Menega was kind of the connection there. He had some Northeast ties. So Oregon was getting a lot of players from Canada that come over. That's dried up a little bit recently. Boucher,
Bartholomew,
there. Yep,
Quincy Guerrier.
Thank you.
Got you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. For a guy who covered the team for 7 years, I should have been able to remember a few more of the Canadian players. But that was definitely a big spot for them, was to get those guys. And then they filled it in with some 5-stars. There was a year where it was Lou King and Bull, and there was a year where it was Troy Brown, and there was a year, a couple years ago where it was Biddle and Shellstad. So they've been able to kind of have this connection to Canada to really get some players out of there. Richard Amarty was another one. Come from there, and then filled it in with some high school guys, and it was kind of a nice mix. And people forget, when the grad transfer thing first came in, Dana was one of the first ones to really get after that hard. And he brought in a lot of guys like that when others were not quite kind of moving into that yet. So it'll be interesting to see. I'd be curious to see what Oregon's roster construction looks like next year. Now, it starts with retention. How many of these guys come back? And we discussed this before. Like I say, we know Biddle can't come back. The other ones, I'll let the compliance department decide which guys don't have, or the Supreme
Eligibility.
Court, or the Supreme Court determine that. But if you could bring back a Kwame and a Jackson Shelstad and a Sean Stewart, and mix in the Ariza, and maybe a transfer or two, there's certainly a team that you could look at next year and think, hey, they're right back in it. If some of those guys transfer out, which just happens everywhere at this point, then you're going to have a tougher build. So I think that's the curiosity for next year. I think we've gotten past is Dane Altman coming back? Dane Altman wants to come back, and Dane Altman's earned the right to come back and will be back. The question is what this roster looks like next year, because if next year's 11-19, that's when the realistic questions jump in and say, hey, how much longer can we do this? If something's gone to where, again, whether it's they don't have the Canadian connection. He's gotten his guys, Tony Stubblefield, who was one of his ace recruiters, came back a couple years ago. So he's kind of got his group back together. It'll be interesting to see what the recruiting, first off, who they retain, and then from there, who they can bring in, because next year now becomes a huge year for Oregon. It's kind of like Kelly Graves 2 years ago. They had the down year, and he gets them right back in the tournament the next year. That's kind of what Dana's going to probably need to do to kind of rebuild some of the faith in this fan base.
Definitely. And to me, it's going to be what's that aha sort of move, right? Because right now, we've talked about this before, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a single guy back from this roster. Now, do I think that's likely? Probably not. There's probably at least one or two guys, at the very least, that you'll bring back or will stay. But I wouldn't be completely shocked if it was almost a complete overhaul of this roster. And so it becomes, where are you going to get that piece? And obviously, there's the 4-star recruits, the 5-star recruits, there's the transfer portal, like you mentioned. Like, where is that? Because it's all about the roster when it comes down to it. Like, Dane Altman could be as good of a coach as he wants. He can't go out there and do the plays for these players. So where is that player going to come from?
Which wouldn't be very good either. If
it would not.
67-year-old Dane Altman was running
you don't
your
want
offense,
that.
you wouldn't want that either.
You don't want that. So where is that going to come from? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be one place. Like, you can't just go, well, this has to be a transfer or this has to be a high school guy. It just needs to come from somewhere.
Yep, no doubt. We mentioned what Kelly Graves has got done, and now after his down year, it looks like he'll be back in the NCAA tournament for a second year in a row. We think probably be nice to get a win tonight over Purdue to solidify it. I mean, I think they're in, but if you finish up with a loss to Washington and then a loss to Purdue, we'll see. Big Ten tournament starts tonight, women's basketball tournament, and this one is at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Oregon is the finale tonight. The tournament is underway. Indiana and Nebraska are playing right now. Wisconsin and Illinois start. It is expected to start around 3, which means everything goes according to time. Oregon-Purdue likely starts around 5:30 tonight, although anytime you're the third game of a tournament, just build in 30 minutes and say one game's going to go overtime or run long. So probably closer to 6 o'clock on Peacock tonight. Oregon's the 11 seed. Purdue's the 14 seed. So like I say, I think for Oregon, you don't want to leave the committee with the last loss being to the 14. So a big one, I think a win tonight certainly locks it. I think they're in the tournament either way, but I certainly would want to take put one more win on there and avoid a loss like that. So I think it's an important game tonight for Oregon and Purdue.
I think so too. I would say that they're in the tournament. Yeah. That's just my sense. When we talked to Kelly last week, it was sort of the sense the way he put it was that they're probably in, and obviously I don't think he wants to just lose every game, but that it's more about how much can we help ourselves at this point, which is probably fair, and that's the mindset I'd like my head coach in. So they played Purdue last week, and it was a little bit closer of a game than you might have liked. It was 71-65 on the road. So maybe now in a neutral site.
Well, not neutral exactly. Indianapolis,
kind of neutral. It's technically neutral. I know. But it's more neutral than actually on the Penn State or the Purdue home court, right?
And I doubt Purdue's going to have a massive following comes out to follow their 14th seed Boilermakers, but
they should win this game. This is one that they should win. Yeah. I'm not that I put in stock in this, but I'm not too worried about them in this game. But then they play potentially Maryland next. They beat Maryland earlier this season. And then I'm trying to get the bracket in front of me.
Michigan would be after that.
And they obviously played very competitively with Michigan. I don't hate the way that the bracket sets up for them.
No. I mean, UCLA, which is the undefeated team's on the other side. Like you say, they've beaten Purdue. They've beaten Maryland. They took Michigan into overtime at home and really had some shots to win that one.
Should have won that game, probably.
But even if you win tonight, if you lose to Maryland, again, now you've lost to a top 25 team that's the 8th seed. It doesn't leave a tough loss at the end for the committee to look at. So I think once you get tonight done, then you're kind of playing, like you say, to kind of help yourself. And the help yourself part is also, every time I look at these bracketology things, it's got Oregon in the 8-9 line. Well, that sounds great, except that means round 2, you're probably playing at UConn, at South Carolina, at UCLA, or at Texas. That's not what you want. So if you could get yourself up to even like a 6 seed to where now you're playing at the number 3 seed instead of one of the ones. So if you make a nice little run here, yeah, I mean, get 2 or 3 wins in this tournament. Even if you get knocked out in the semis, maybe you moved yourself up to the 6th line and really helped yourself in what that tournament would look like. But so like you say, Purdue tonight, the winner of that takes on Maryland. Winner of that takes on Michigan. And then you would not have to face UCLA. UCLA is in the top half of the bracket, so they wouldn't face UCLA until the championship game, which is Sunday. And these brackets are so wild these days. I was so accustomed to the old Pac-12 one where it was just simple and easy. I mean, there was 4 first-round buys. Now it's like every tournament I look at, I'm like, God, there's double buys, triple buys. We got 3 games tonight, 5 games tomorrow, 4 games the day after that. It's like the Pac-12 just used to be 4 games a day. It was nice and simple. It was easy. You know what you're doing. And nowadays, it's just hard to figure it out. But Oregon does not get a bye. One of the 6 teams that did not, actually the last team to not get a bye as the 11 seeds. So they will have to win 5 games. They would have to win Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to get it done. But like I say, give me 3 of them, and I think you probably moved yourself up in the bracket and put yourself in a better spot.
I think so, too. And I've been conditioned enough now with women's basketball that whenever I see the 8-9, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yep.
Yeah. No, so it's definitely not the best seed to be. It's so weird how that works that way. You almost would rather be a 10, right?
I'd rather be a 13.
Yeah.
I'd rather have to go beat a 4 and a 5,
Absolutely.
rather than having to be at UConn. Because, again, it's not you're just facing the 1 seed. You're facing them on their home court in front of what's probably going to be a sellout crowd.
So that's where, and we did this the other day with Eric Skopel, kind of went, okay, projecting a little bit, but if Oregon, say they win 2 games, or they win the first game and then they get again against Maryland they lose, then at that point maybe you're the 8-9. If they can win that first one and then they lose to the number 1 seed, it's exactly where you were last year, except for the fact that last year's team was kind of the pinnacle of whatever that team was. And then this year it seems like, okay, like the main parts of your team are these sophomores. You got Hisa Tute, you got Katie Fiso, and can you build on the end of this season to project yourself or put yourself in a good position for next season?
Yeah.
So I think to me that's what it's about. You'd love to see them get a little bit higher than that 8-9, so you don't end up in that situation. But I do think that unfortunately, if they end up in that 8-9, I think they have a good shot against that 8 seed, and there's not a lot of teams out there in that level that I think, okay, they're not going to be able to compete with Oregon. But they've had a little bit more trouble with the teams that are going to be those number 1, the number 2 seed, the number 3 seed, the number 4 seed. So it'd be a big deal for them if they were able to win a game against one of those teams, in my opinion.
Yep, definitely. So again, a reminder, if it says 5:30, you probably can get home at 6 and probably still be around for tip-off. You do have to have Peacock, though, which I don't have, and which I learned last night when I tried to watch the Oregon-Illinois game, that I don't have Peacock. So I might have to go find a local establishment that has TVs that I can watch and see that. Because, I'm back in tomorrow, Justin. We have to have some expert analysis on the Danny and Justin show.
Absolutely.
We can't just scoreboard watch and try to pretend like we watch games. We got to really watch games.
We got to really watch.
And tomorrow, as I said, we are going to have a Tracktown Day. We are going to be out at the offices of Tracktown USA, which I assumed was at Hayward Field, and I just was informed by the general is actually over at Oakway Center. So we are going to be on remote tomorrow, and you and I are going to be over there interviewing a few athletes and a couple of bigwigs at Tracktown, talking about the upcoming schedule for what track and field is going to look like this summer out there. So
stoked about it.
We get to break out of the office. I think Blaze is going to be holding down the fort, or he'll be there with us.
I think so. I think he'll be here.
Okay.
He said
we're gonna be out. We're gonna be out tomorrow. It's gonna be all track. So we will obviously recap the Oregon women's game and Oregon softball, Oregon State softball in the first segment. But then we will get into a lot of track tomorrow, and then I'll be back here on Friday. As again, Danny is. If you're wanting to hear Danny's voice, if you miss him and you miss that voice, you can go to osa.org and tune in to some of the 2A basketball tournament out at Pendleton starting tomorrow. So Danny will be there, so I will be coughing and filling in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, Wednesday, Friday next week. Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, fun. It was fun. It always is, and we'll have you back tomorrow, and we'll dive into some track.
Sounds good. And big thanks again to Josh Wilcox for joining us. It was great to catch up with him, and excited to hear about what he's got going on out of Harrisburg. Go Eagles, as he said, and appreciate him coming on and giving us the update on that one there. All right. Well, we appreciate you tuning in. Like I say, join us tomorrow. We will be track heavy tomorrow. And then Friday, we will be bet heavy with big bets. This is Steve Mims. I'm filling in for Danny. Listen to the Danny and Justin Show on Fox Sports Eugene and Fox Sports Newport.